Good evening, everyone. Are we starting soon? As this is 6 minutes past the allotted time.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening to Kikelomo. Thank you for speaking out. The host is here with us. Imo, can you hear me? Imo, you are muted.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you very clearly.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
How is my background? Is my sound okay?
Yes, I can hear you very clearly.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. Good evening, everyone. And if you're joining us at the time of the day that you're having over there, my name is Zimwan Salam, and I'm super privileged to be your host for Techeconomy Business Series once again. For the month of April. And for today, we'll be discussing protecting innovation in Africa startup ecosystem. But before we kickstart, I want to acknowledge all the speakers that we have on stage from the Tech Economy faculty. Thank you so much for honoring our invitation. We don't take it lightly, and we don't take it for granted that you've given us this time out of your day to discuss how we can protect innovation in Africa startup ecosystem. So we want to let you know that we really do appreciate, and of course, thank you for always taking up the call whenever we reach out to you for conversations like this for the ecosystem and the larger industry as well. All right, so let's just do a quick exercise. Let's know where you're joining us from. I'm joining from Abuja, the nation's capital. So please let me know in the chats where you're joining us from. Let's know the diverse audience that we have here. All right, we got to see joining from Lagos. That's great. All right. Oh, thank you. Moses is joining from Jos, Plateau State. That's the place I hope to go to quite soon. Haven't been in Jos. All right. Mr. Philip joining from Lagos. Said he had to say Center of Excellence. Okay. Kayode joining from Dallas, Texas. I think that should be good morning to you. Yeah. Good morning, Kayode. All right. All right, so we just want to mention that we're also streaming across our various video platforms, across YouTube, across Facebook and Instagram as well. So this is meant to be an immersive experience. Thank you, Nengi. Thank you for joining from Lagos. So this is meant to be immersive. So just some simple ground rules, some speakers, please. When you come on stage, please keep your videos turned on. Like I said, we're streaming to video platforms, and we have to keep our videos turned on to make this an immersive experience for our community members and for everyone joining on either Zoom or all these other platforms I've mentioned. So I would just allow the tech team to roll out the speaker introductions. Tech team, please can you confirm that it's ready? If that has not been taken before I was able to finally get into the room. You can take it away, please.
Meet the panelists for today. Kayode Akintunde, Kayose, is an AI solutions architect and implementation specialist known for helping organizations harness the power of artificial intelligence to drive innovation, efficiency, and growth. With extensive experience in deploying both local and cloud-based AI systems, he has worked at the intersection of technology and business transformation, enabling startups and enterprises to scale intelligently in an increasingly digital world. Passionate about the African tech ecosystem, Kayode is deeply committed to advancing conversations around innovation, data ownership, and the protection of intellectual property in emerging markets. Kikelomo Owoyale is the founder of She Foundry Limited. She is a finance strategist, venture builder, and advocate for women's economic empowerment, with extensive experience in startup growth, strategic finance, and business operations. Through She Foundry Limited, a gender lens platform focused, she bridges funding gaps for female-led businesses across Africa. Kikelomo is also a public speaker and leadership professional, known for advancing inclusive entrepreneurship, investment readiness, and sustainable business growth. Mr. Philip Aiwekhoe is a cybersecurity and AI expert with over 15 years' experience and holds DIP data processing, BSc Computer Science, and MSc Infotech. He is the founder of Chairstech Consulting and Future Cyber Leaders Mentorship Initiative, Chief Information Security Officer at NPF Microfinance Bank, and Cybersecurity Consultant to the Police Service Commission. He holds several certifications like ISO 27001, ISO 27032, ABCP, CISM, and CCISO. A thought leader and speaker, championing safe digital future across Africa. He is also a certified Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer. Sunny Ogbari is a software tester with prior experience in front-end development, working across fintech, legal tech, healthcare, energy, and blockchain-driven platforms where digital reliability is critical. Her background in front-end development gives her a practical understanding of how products are built, while her work in testing ensures they are rigorously validated before reaching the people who depend on them. She has contributed to projects spanning digital banking channels, legal systems, health platforms, and blockchain ecosystems, supporting digital asset transactions. Jesse Amamgbu is a DevOps and data science specialist with over 5 years of experience solving common technical challenges. Currently serving as a key team member at MoneyPoint, Jesse is known for architecting resilient cloud infrastructures that enable seamless operations for data-driven businesses. His unique expertise spans DevOps and data science, making him a versatile professional capable of bridging the gap between infrastructure and analytics. Jesse thrives on transforming intricate infrastructure problems into efficient, scalable solutions that drive tangible business value. Moses Amama is a senior product designer at thoughtbot, a global software design and development consultancy with teams across the United States, Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. He partners with founders and organizations to turn complex problems into products people actually want to use, bringing over a decade of experience shipping interfaces used by startups and enterprises alike. Beyond his client work, Moses is the founder and CEO of Startup Lab, an incubator that co-builds products alongside early-stage founders.
Well, thank you so much, Tech Team. Thank you for that speaker lineup and introductions. And I just want to mention that one of our speakers is not able to be here. He did reach out that he had some unforeseen circumstances, so he's not going to make it here. But I'm really thankful that we have most of our speakers here, and we're going to be having a very great conversation for the next 46 minutes and as time permits. So with no time wasted, our main discussion here is to continue with dissecting really important conversations about the tech industry in Nigeria and, of course, Africa as a whole. We focus, of course, on regionally important topics because we understand that Nigeria has, in the past 20 years, and most recently 10 years, been able to churn out a lot of unicorn companies, which is making Nigeria a hub for technology. Of course, the likes of InterSwitch, which was the first unicorn out of Nigeria, and of course, we've had other companies follow suit. And so this has had a lot of attention, both from the global perspective into Nigeria. And so, but then with a lot of all of these innovations and fast exits and of course unicorn scale, there's still the discussion and of course the eyebrow being raised about the protection of our innovation. We've seen founders and we've seen even infrastructures get penetrated in a very short amount of time, right? And if we're to grow as an ecosystem, trust is essential, and building security into the things that we build, the products or the systems that we build is quite essential. And so this is what this conversation is meant to explore and of course help us have forward-thinking solutions and of course have some deliberations that we can put into actionable plans to better the ecosystem. I'll be coming to you, Mr. Kayode. Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning. It's
How are
really
you
good to
doing?
be here.
Looking good.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking good. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Kayode, your background as an AI solutions architect, right, and an implementation specialist. You currently sit at the forefront of AI adoption. But then I want to know, as AI adoption grows in Africa, how can startups protect their proprietary data sets, their models, and their algorithms from misuse and theft? And please, as you answer that, also touch on why many African startups rely on global cloud infrastructure and how these founders can balance innovation speed with data sovereignty and ownership.
Okay, thank you. I mean, it's a platform that I've always looked out for all of the years that I've been out of Nigeria. Even while I was in Nigeria, this has always been my dream, to bring Africa to a stage where they can also compete out there with the kind of resource and the kind of talent that is out there in the market. So two questions: how can African startup leverage on AI to grow their business, to innovate more and do so much more? Yes, I mean, it's no brainer now that we are shifted away from the API economy into the LLMs economy, which is present. And so innovation, it's a must now. If you're not innovating before, you have to double up your effort to even innovate right now, because whatever ideas you have, I mean, be rest assured that over 100 people already have that idea. So as an Africa, I will insert myself back into the Nigeria space, while I was doing fine, but there's so many things that are dragging me down. I have to look for fuel, I have to, provide my own electricity, I have to, rush down to the office, I miss traffic, and you have to put food in your stomach so that you can also think properly and do stuff. So as an African entrepreneur right now, what you should be thinking of is three things really. Your innovation and what are you trying to solve? Very critical right now. What are you trying to solve and who are the beneficiary of your innovation? That will guide you towards how to stay competitive, where to look for and all of that. This is not the time where you stray away from these times we are. It's not the time where you joke around and start sharing your ideas around. These are times where you need to be serious, you need to be focused, and you need to know the things that are challenging you as an African. I don't want to talk about government. Government is there, but whatever you can lay your hands upon, you must utilize as much as you can. So in terms of protecting your innovation, you must do three things. About you yourself and you must work on yourself as an innovator. You must protect, so three things is about protecting your innovation, the resource you need, how do you go about it, and then the people protection, on the consumer front, protection on the resource front, and protection for even yourself. So I'll just take 2 points from there. So after already talked about thinking, so we all know that innovation stems from ideas, and ideas again stem from thinking. Your thinking now should not be static, it should be dynamic. When you think about anything now, you need to back it up with factual. You need to go away from the dreaming stage into the factual stage, because like I said, there are over 100 people that are also thinking about that. So your thinking should be guided with all of the AI resource now. I mean, I tell people now that stay on Anthropic. Don't bother yourself about GPT. Anthropic is quite precise. They are the leader in the market. They give you what you want. And then you can even query that your idea against how many people have done it, not just in Africa and the rest of the world. So that's the kind of protection. Protect your thinking. And don't think that you are the only one that is thinking that way. Know that that's at least 100 people who are thinking about that, and then do what you need to do. Then redaction. Even if you're going to share your ideas, it is more important now to redact. Don't just throw everything you have used. You want to build pitch deck, for instance. You don't start writing every right now. The people who you are, the Y Combinators of this world, and the people who will sponsor you, they are already ahead of your pitch. They are using AI, they are doing all kinds of stuff. So redact as much as you can. I mean, if time will permit, I will show you a sample of a redacted pitch deck from one of my product. If you're going to come up with an app, don't come up with an app and start showing all the icons. Show some icons and take away some stuff, they will understand, and so on. So in the protection in your innovation, those are the 2 points I want to talk about. Then maybe much later when a question comes in, we can dive in. Then the other one is protection at resource level. If you are as an African innovator, if you are looking for funding, gone are those days where you just think what you have is so superb, and then you go out there, Y Combinator, this, that, banks, everybody, Tony Elumelu. No, don't do that. Let your equity or whatever you want, let it be the last option. Do stuff. There are things you can do for yourself now in terms of the LLM economy. You can spin up a staging environment quickly without so much money. So let equity be your last option, because again, in terms of protection, people who want to give you equity, they want to steal part of what, in quote, steal in quote, meaning they want to, if I'm going to buy into your ideas and I have money, I'll be looking at taking over at the company almost immediately to get 55% so that you get 40 or 45. That's what I'll be looking for. So let equity be your last thing. Don't start talking about you want to learn from this. You hear that the Paystack or whoever has gotten so. No, don't do that. In these times, don't do that. And then secondly is when you're sourcing for fund, source for fund wisely. Don't just do what everybody, because like I said before, they will take it depends on your ideas. It depends on how lucrative who your target market is and how vast the value you are creating. They can take it away from you almost immediately. If you are not well packaged and they see that, oh, maybe this one is hungry and all of that. People size people up very quickly, and then they can quickly take it off from you. And before you know it, you will just become a staff in what you're supposed to be a CEO and founder for. So you need to be careful, and there are steps to do that as we go forward. I'll be able to point it out. And then thirdly is protection at the consumer front. Again, when you are innovating, you are thinking, you must know your target market. Who will use this thing? As bad in quotes that Nigeria is now, there are people who really wants to use products, who wants to do, use things. Depends on how you bring it out, how you package it, how you sensitize people. So let your services and the product that you create from your innovation, let it be affordable. Don't create an innovation that you now, because you are buying fuel at 1,000 plus now, you want to take all of that, your daily living from people. It's going to fail. You're just setting yourself for failure. So let it be affordable. And then which is the second point now, let your consumer also be a stakeholder in whatever you are bringing out. Not very common, but let them have a sense of belonging into that thing they are using. Because immediately they start consuming your product and services. Remember, we're in an LLM economy. They can quickly, I mean, Anthropic is there. It's not even housewives now, they bring product out. They create images that look so beautiful, and then they create content, they throw it out there, and then before you know it, Instagram start paying them a lot of money. So in terms of that, those are the three things I want to talk about right now. And then as we go forward, I can expand upon it. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Kayode. For me, the main thing I noted down was without information, and I know that that's very valuable. Having been in the startup ecosystem myself for a while, I remember when I was in the Founder Institute in 2023, one of our directors used to say that everything with technology and startup, that there's a quote he used to always say that it is like a beautiful lady. You have to raise the skirts such that it gets attention, but not too high that you reveal everything. That's how the founders are supposed to pitch. So that point was quite important without any information. Thank you as well. Mr. Philip, I'll be coming to you, right? Mr. Kayode spoke on the idea protection side, right? But then beyond the idea or beyond the infrastructure, beyond the product, when you now get to market, there's something real, which is the other layer, cyber threats. Now, cyber threats are increasing across startups. So as a cybersecurity practitioner yourself, what are the biggest cybersecurity risks that African founders underestimate today? And how can early stage startups build strong security systems without large budgets or dedicated security teams? Please, can you keep it under 5 minutes? Thank you. You're muted, sorry.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for this first speaker. I think he shed so much light around some things. Yeah, for startup, I think security is a major challenge and one of the key things for most startups. It mentioned the issue of funding, and most of the startups, they are concerned about just taking the product to the market. And one of the key things we've seen for most of the products is there are a lot of issues around security for most of those products because most times security by design does not come into play. Some basic security processes are not followed. So one of the things we advise for startup is first and foremost, yes, they may not have the resources to set up a security team, but there are basic security things that should be put in place, right? And some approach we've seen is that they should find a way to ensure that the founder or the co-founder or most of the key persons involved in the engineering process take ownership for security responsibility. One. Then secondly, they should also identify basic security architecture that should be built into every system such that those things are considered. Under option is option around outsourcing some of these functions, right? So that it doesn't require too much cost. And to have this security structure within the startup may not necessarily require all the resources. What it just requires is just to understand the basic security teams that should be put in place, what are the various regulatory requirements, right, within each country in terms of data protection regulation, what are the cybersecurity requirements. All those are very key. The other thing that can also work is also partner with organizations who also have some startup funds or infrastructure that supports startup organization to help build a security infrastructure within the organization, so that they don't necessarily need to spend so much setting up the infrastructure in terms of security. So these are very key, and over time, as you build having security by design, as it grow, what we've seen that their products mature with security embedded as part of the product design. So once you have that concept, you are doing some basic tips. I'm sure that will also help a great deal. So at the point where you need to now have a full-fledged cybersecurity department, then you know that the startup is fully funded, have what it takes to run such department. But for a startup, you may not necessarily need to have such. Basically, just have by design basic tips, partnership with organizations who can help leverage such services. Something I did recently, looking at this concern, we noted that a lot of startups are having concern of, we don't even know what to do, and we don't even have an idea of what should be done. Now, if you partner with organizations who are already experts, right, who have a kind of low-cost funding and partnership that makes it easy for startup to leverage on. So these guys are experts part in the field, right? They look at what you do over time to time, right? Provide advisory service. So we call it year-round advisory services. So we look at a lot of organizations are there developing products, but they don't have security team. So we say, you know what? Let's be your security team. All we just do, we are here with you all year round. Look at whatsoever you are doing. We are reviewing your policy. Where you don't have policy, we help you put policy in place. So you are not having a staff. So we just work with the dedicated, maybe your engineering team or probably your head of the innovation teams. Okay, do this for your products, carry out this check, carry out this vulnerability, we'll do it for you, provide you the options, put the person in place, such as you have what security. So if you are working with a vendor, they ask for security requirements. Okay, you need to have this. So because it's not your call, you relate with us. We tell you, okay, this is what you should do. So that has really helped a lot of organizations. And what we are seeing is that they are beginning to appreciate the real need for them to adopt security as part of their startup build up. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Philip. For me, you've shared so many valuable points, especially with the one that concerns early stage founders and tech entrepreneurs. Funding is always really key because there's always thinking of how to increase your runway when you don't even know if the product you are ideating is going to fit the market or you need to extend the runway. So thank you for sharing those salient tips that are valuable to early stage founders. All right, Mr. Jesse, Mr. Philip, and Mr. Kayode have spoken both on the product threats, and then Mr. Philip spoke on the cybersecurity threat. But then a lot of technology products are hosted somewhere, which is the cloud, right? So as someone with a DevOps and data science background, I want to know how important is resilient infrastructure in protecting startup innovation from downtime, data loss, and operational disruption, really. And then what DevOps best practices should these African startups adopt early to ensure scalability and security? Thank you. Hi, Mr. Jesse. Okay, I think he dropped off stage. Maybe he's having some network challenges. Mr. Moses, please can you confirm that you're here with us?
Yes, I am.
All right, welcome. Happy to see you. All right. So I wanted to also speak on the product design aspect of things. Mr. Philip mentioned a key thing when he said that a lot of the challenges that founders experience with their product and security threat is that there was no security thinking in the product architecture. And as someone who has designed products for startups across the world, Europe, Africa, and the US and the UK, how can founders protect product ideas while still collaborating openly with developers, designers, and investors? And why is product design often overlooked as intellectual property, and how should startups safeguard its place?
Okay, so to answer your question, I want to also stay true to something I've always believed and something I've always shared openly to maybe a good number of my people that are watching, is that ideas in themselves are often not what the paper they are written on. In many cases, execution is what makes the difference. However, that is not to say like founders should sort of like entirely ignore like protecting products or ideas that they are working on. Okay, but in many cases, sort of like guarding the idea and keeping it secret is often not what makes the difference. What makes the real difference is from very early taking the time to make sure that you have like proper documentation in place, proper structures in place, and even in many cases, when you have to work with like developers, if it's developers you're hiring, or even like developers you're contracting, designers you're hiring, or designers that you're contracting to work on your products. It means you would have to share beyond your idea. You would have to share the
the crux of what makes it unique, what you've seen in that problem space that you want to solve. And sometimes even your strategy for execution is something you share. Okay. And because you're going to go to that level to share those kind of details, it's important that you take the time to make sure that there are proper contractual agreements in place with very clean and clear IP rights assignments and compensations and any relevant documentation that is needed. Because in many cases, those are the things that founders suffer for. Not even sort of like somebody seeing your idea and trying to copy it. Most times they copy it and they don't even execute like in ways that you would have. And in dealing with the investors, I think it was Mr. Kayode who said something like super important, and he was giving an example with like a redacted pitch deck earlier, and so even in pitching to investors, you have to be like smart about the aspects of your product and your execution that your strategies that you have essentially that you have for your product. Share the parts that they absolutely need to know, the parts of the strategy they need to know, the parts of the details of the market you're covering that they need to know, and more importantly, your impact and sort of like how you've performed over time. You don't need to sort of like share your entire playbook. Those are some of the ways like founders can actually protect their ideas while working with with the team. And one thing I also promote is, and I believe this strongly as a product designer, like this has been such a huge difference in the products and in the founders I've seen actually succeed, is that they start selling early and they start talking to customers early, because that then customer insights then shape the products that they actually end up building, which makes a lot of difference. But that said, I also understand that there are products that and some ideas that are pretty unique in themselves that you can just come out and sort of like put them out on Twitter and start selling publicly. And in such cases, I will not still discount the importance of talking to users early and validating early. But in that case, what I would advise is um, come up with like a beta user group, or I think some frameworks call it like a sponsored user group, where you enter like a strong NDA with them. Okay, that way you get the benefit of learning from users while building without essentially keeping putting your idea at risk. The second part of the question around product design in itself, I think the question is why is I'm trying to remember, why is product design not often
Right, yeah. Why is it often overlooked as part of like the early development, and then how can founders safeguard it? It's not considered as IP, but it is. And how can
yeah,
founders safeguard it if we're considering it
safeguard
as
it?
IP?
Okay, so interestingly, I agree that I'm a product designer, so I also agree that product design is IP. But as someone who works with a lot of founders at work and in the incubator here, I often will not advise founders a lot to sort of like waste their energy and the time they should be using building, sort of like going to protect like their designs. Because one thing is, if you're building correctly, your designs are going to go obsolete very quickly, because you should be learning in a matter of weeks and like taking decisions and changing those decisions, right? However, even though I would say don't waste your time protecting those designs, it ties back to something I said earlier. The freelancers you bring in, the developers you bring in, and the people you hire into your company to help you build this product, you have to have very clear-cut agreements and IP rights with them in such a way that like a developer or a designer who's worked on your product does not just sort of like pick up your designs and the stuffs you've taking the time to learn from users. They don't just take all those away and go on to build like other products. Okay, so IP rights assignments actually help with that essentially. But parts of your work that are super important to sort of like to go all the way to protect your trademarks, your even stuff like your logo, your design decisions, and even your brand, right? Those are the things that sort of like communicate the essence of the company and the essence of the products that you're building. And those are the things that you should focus more time on protecting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moses, and thank you for keeping it timely as well. All right, we are midway past the hour of the conversation, and I just want to thank everyone for joining. We've had more than 24 persons in the room and much more on our various channels that are streaming. Thank you so much again for taking your time to be with us. All right, Sonny, good afternoon or good evening. Thank you so much for being here. So for someone with a software testing background, why should software testing be seen as part of innovation protection rather than just a technical checklist? And how can poor quality assurance expose startups to reputational damage, legal risk, or even customer churn? Can you enlighten us, please?
Okay, thank you very much, Imo, for that question. So I want to start by saying that software testing is an integral part of the development/innovation process. So software testing, the general idea that software testing is just about finding bugs or about finding issues or failures in a product. It's not necessarily about that. I like to see it as a way to protect your innovation. Your innovation or your product should equal trust, usability, and reliability. And if any of these breaks, then there's a problem. In most cases, when a product breaks, the product struggles. And we've seen startups fail because they deliver products that break in the hands of users. And currently, these days, with the social media, users are very quick to give bad reviews, and we know how fast that gets. So this is where software testing comes in before this product goes live and even while it is live. So it is a way to defend your innovation in the real world. And the first users that a product gets actually define the reputation of that product. So it is very important that startups in general do not lean back when it comes to software testing. In most cases, startups don't get unlimited chances. There are a couple of startups that we feel came up with products that are very innovative and is actually necessary in our current climate, but these products no longer exist, and so do the startups, simply because they delivered a buggy MVP at the time of release. And we find out that when users actually use products, they don't really say something like, oh, the QA is bad or the software testing wasn't done. It's not just necessarily about the product itself, but about the user experience in general. So that's why you hear things like, oh, I'm not going to use that app. The app always crashes. My payment always fails. I'm not sure the way the interface is. Are you sure that my data is not leaking? It raises those kind of questions. It creates those inconsistencies in the mind of users, and that's where software testing actually comes in. And I think you asked about the legal aspect of it. So when software testing is not properly handled, we can have issues like data leaks, as I just mentioned. Apart from just incorrect transactions as well, there's that, and we also have security gaps. These days, data is very important. And where there are data leaks, you also have regulatory penalties, which nobody wants to be a party of. And then when we have security gaps, then we begin to have fraud exposure and the likes. And these are things that testing should actually be your first line of defense when it comes to these type of errors. So customer churn is not just about the quality of a problem. It's also about the feature itself. And when a product has reputational damage in this current climate, it is very difficult for that startup to actually get that back. Because one thing that startups do not actually have is their reputation. They just have to build that, and that comes over time. So when you begin to have those kind of complaints or problems about a product that is just new to the market, which should be the shiny new object that everyone should rush to use and download and enjoy, and then we are constantly getting negative reviews, most startups do not survive that phase. So software testing is actually meant to mitigate and protect again, the value of the innovation that has been created.
Awesome, thank you. I really learned something important from what you've shared. Beyond you sharing about the three frameworks of trust, usability, and reliability, I've never heard it said the way you put it, that testing is actually the first line of defense. I would always think the cybersecurity, everything, maybe this database schema and everything, but then putting it that way, that testing is the first line of defense, really brings it into perspective. So thank you for sharing that. So yeah, I'll be coming to you, Kikelomo. Of course, you're definitely not the last, even though I'm taking your question last. I did some deep dive into your profile and I could see the great work you're doing as Chief Foundry. Thank you so much for all your contributing to the ecosystem. So yeah, I want to know, many startups focus on fundraising before structure. Why is governance important in protecting innovation and attracting key investors? And most importantly, how can female-led startups better access funding while protecting ownership and control of their innovations, please?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Once again, Imo, you've been doing a beautiful job moderating the panel. I must apologize. I won't be able to turn on my video. I'm indisposed, but I just could not cancel this engagement. So I hope it's fine that I move forward. All right. Okay, so when we're talking about why governance is more important in protecting innovation and also attracting investors, the honest truth is that fundraising without structure, it can be the most expensive mistake a founder can make. And I'm saying this as a chartered accountant and also someone who has sat on both sides of the table as a founder, as well as someone who facilitates deals. So number one, especially I've seen this happen a whole lot of time. Startups, they waste a lot of their precious time chasing fund, even without having the necessary structure to either raise the fund, protect the fund, or even utilize the fund appropriately. And that's why you see that some organizations, they raise early and then they fold too early as well. And sometimes it's not even embezzlement, it's just because they don't have the capacity to raise such funding. In addition, when startups raise capital before they put their governance in order, they are basically handing everything else, or they are basically handing everything to someone else to define the terms of their own business. So it is very important that you put the necessary structure in place as a founder so you don't lose decision-making control. I think it was the first speaker that actually emphasized on this, that if you raise equity too early, what you would now then experience is someone trying to fight for the 55% of your equity when you could have actually put a whole lot of structure in place, and then you are now raising from a position of power, not a position of weakness. I've also seen founders who have messy cap table, their shareholders agreements were vague. Even sometimes they've given out a whole lot of shares without actually realizing that. So governance is actually very important. It is not bureaucracy. It is important. It is legal and operational. And yeah, this is how decisions are being made, and this is what happens when things go wrong. When things go wrong, what happens when you've given out so much equity? Then you won't have that decision making power anymore, and sometimes it can even lead to you losing the vision of the organization because someone else is dictating for your organization. And also for innovation driven startups specifically, governance protects their IP ownership at the entity level. So if their contract with co-founders, developers, and early collaborators does not include all of these clauses, which is their most valuable asset, the product, the algorithm, the data set, that may not legally belong to the company. So it might now belong to that person who is getting equity from you or someone else. So this is a due diligence red flag that will kill a funding round faster than a weak revenue model would. And then for female-led startups, what I always tell women founders, right, is that they should always be it's not even just about women founders, it's everywhere. Even in the corporate settings, there's these chances that people would want to take you for granted. People want to push your limit just because you're a woman. So it is important that you are able to figure all of these things out. You are able to ensure that nobody is offering you aggressive discount rates, and when they do, you call it out. And that's why so many people, when they have, maybe when I'm dealing with lawyers or maybe business owners, especially in partnership agreement, they will say, oh, she's very strong-headed. I'm not being strong-headed. I just know that the same thing you are offering to me, you wouldn't offer it to a man founder. You wouldn't give the same advice to a man founder. So you need to be able to hold your ground as a woman founder, and then ensure that your equity structures are not diluted disproportionately just because you are a woman founder, and then they are giving you what's it called, terms and conditions on fundings that should not even be discussed at all. So at Chief Foundry, the venture studio I founded, as well as Yetunde Finance, where we provide structured debt financing for women-led MSMEs, we have seen this pattern repeatedly, and that is why we've even ensured that for our initiative, we are able to double down on Yetunde Finance. You would notice that some of our programs that we've had last year, last 2 years, we are currently pausing that so that we're able to raise enough capital for the women in our portfolio, the women in our community, so that they don't get funding from the wrong set of people. So my specific advice for female founders: structure before fundraising. Ensure you structure. Even for male founders, that structure is quite important. Complete your company incorporation, execute your founders agreement, get your IP assignment clauses in place, and understand your equity position before you walk into any investor conversation. So if you know that you don't understand numbers, then get someone who who understand numbers and is able to guide you appropriately. I always say that for numbers, it's not just a financial analyst. It's not just a financial analyst role or a CFO role. As a founder, the basics of these finances, you need to be able to understand it. And if you don't, please, this is the best time to start learning at the early stage of your business. Funding would accelerate your business definitely, but ensure that you are able to provide structure so that that acceleration does not even break you or break your business. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I was watching the time to hope that you would end it at 5:52, and you did just start. So that also proves to me that you're a financial person because you know your numbers. All right. I just want to say thank you for everyone who has been with us. I've seen that we've had a consistent amount of people in our Zoom room. I think the few have been dropped out by network, but then we really do appreciate. And I also want to use this opportunity to also crave their indulgence. We have so much questions that have come in for this particular topic because it was quite important that we do navigate this in as much as we're also celebrating World IP Day. So I just want to crave their indulgence that we're going to be extending this by a few minutes beyond 6 p.m. so that we can actually have our speakers actually close up their rounds, because from the first question they answered, they wanted to actually finalize on things. So please permit me to take them another round of questions. And please, speakers, because of our time, if you could keep it under 2 minutes, it would really help so that we can be out of here in a short time. I will start with you again, Kike, and this time around I want to talk about numbers, right? You spoke about finances and about how founders should take this seriously even at the early stage, because it doesn't get easier as you grow. So what financial mistakes weaken startup sustainability even when the product is quite strong in your experience?
All right. Thank you for also asking this particular question, because it's quite important that everybody has all of these financial knowledge. Okay, so the first thing that I have noticed since I started working with a venture studio is that a whole lot of startups, honestly, I still want to get in the minds of founders because I am also one, but then I've always had the finance background, right? But I noticed that a lot of founders, they don't see the need for keeping their books. They just feel like, oh, it's a later conversation. I wrote it on LinkedIn. I don't know if anyone here has actually read that particular post I made, whereby I interacted with a particular founder that had raised $500,000, and then they wanted to raise a follow-up round, and we asked, can we see your books? Like, can you state how you actually expended this 500,000? And they had nothing to show for it. This is a big business, because even if your product is strong, no investor would want to give you funding when you cannot even account for the earlier funding you had raised. So this is one thing I see consistently: founders not keeping track of their books, waiting till they are big before they can start working on their financials. There are AI tools out there that can actually help you put these things together, and also there are financial analysts out there that can also help you with these things. If you need more guidance, you can always reach out to me. And then secondly, some founders actually confuse revenue with profits. So because they are making profits, they feel like, oh, they have enough cash. So cash flow is different from profit. So it is important that as the startup is growing, especially for those that are in so for those that are owing you, you can always
Hi, Kikelomo. I don't know if it's me, but I'm not hearing you. Your words are breaking up. I don't know if you're still there. Okay, I think maybe she's having some network challenges, sadly.
hello, Imo.
Yeah, I
Can
can
you
hear
hear me?
you. Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. So I had to move somewhere else. So I was saying that if you are someone who does with a whole lot of contracts, and you know that there are people owing you and then you are owing some people, that it is ensured that you are able to delay the funding of those that are owing you. So those ones, we call them delay the fundings of those you are owing, rather we call them creditors, and then you ensure that you get back the funding from your debtors as soon as possible. So it is important to also maintain that, also ensure that your cash flow is being maintained properly. So even if you are making profit but you don't have cash flow, it can run down a business. And also we see a whole lot of underpricing. Sometimes in the long run it helps you win the market share, but then are you actually getting the customers that will be able to pay for the value that you are delivering? So underpricing sometimes might be good, but then it has its own adverse effects also. And then there's another thing that founders do, and I've experienced this as well. So I'm speaking from the place of experience. So because they just started, they just feel like they can always match their personal finance and their corporate finance. I know a lot of people are guilty of this. As I'm speaking, I know some people are like, she don't catch me. So so there are a lot of people that do this, and they are using their personal accounts to get, it does not pay you. Even if you don't want to go through the stress of creating a corporate account, there are ways that it is now even easier. From the comfort of my home, I open bank accounts now. So it is now made easier due to what? Due to technology. So you don't even need to visit a physical bank for you to open a corporate account, because if you do this, if you are combining your personal finance and your company finance, the chances of you raising fund is actually zero, because nobody would want to fund I don't know who is laughing, but yeah, nobody would want to fund your business when they know that you are using your, even if you're not spending that money, they know that the temptation is really high. When clients will pay you 10 million and they paid into your personal account, you go and do play with it now. But if it is in your corporate account, you know that, okay, this is what actually belongs to me and this is what belongs to the company. So it's very important, especially if you know that you want to raise funding for your business. Yeah, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for breaking the tables we did not ask to be broken. All right, thank you so much for those salient points. Sonia, I'll be coming to you. Right, you had mentioned a lot about the fact that your testing is actually the first line of defense, right? And so I want to know, in closing, what testing culture should founders build from day one to ensure reliable and secure product? 2 minutes, please.
Okay, so I've spoken to many founders, and one thing that I see is common is that most founders see testing or quality assurance as something that can be an add-on at a much later time, and that is actually costly. So I feel like what should actually happen is that QA should be from the planning process. So in the requirement gathering meetings, when you're discussing the features, when you're discussing with the product designers, they should be in those meetings, because it is easier and absolutely cheaper for the startup for a QA to notice a requirement flaw in those meetings, in those conversations, and then it cannot be added to the requirement documentations, as opposed to catching those flaws in production where it can cost the company. And also, they need to take into consideration testing real scenarios. So when I say real scenarios, I mean when you're carrying out a test, you're not just testing the happy scenarios. In real life cases, people input invalid email addresses, invalid passwords. People test funny scenarios just to see if your application is going to break or if they can actually get away with certain things. So testing those scenarios are actually just as important as testing the happy scenarios as well, not necessarily just the ideal flows. So you need to prioritize the risk-based testing, and that is realizing that all features are not equal. So if you're building a solution that has to do with payments and transactions, you need to prioritize things like authentication, data handling, the core user journey. That's from when a user actually logs into your application till they complete the flow that is done. So generally, I just like to say that building with security and reliability in mind, and including testers in the from the beginning of the process to the end, and not just at the end, is just as important.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. That's really you just hit the nail on the head right there. All right, Moses, I just want to know, how can Africa nurture the next generation of builders who create globally competitive products from the continent? I think you are the best to answer this, because you haven't just built for the continent, you've built outside of the continent to a global audience. So what can you share for the next generation of builders who may be on this call or who may actually catch up with the recording?
Okay. So when you speak about the next generation of builders, I've used that term. We have used that term quite a lot to also describe a phase of our work here at Startup Lab called Future Fit, that has actually grown through our processes in the incubator to be its own organization too. And it caters to sort of like working with kids aged 6 to 16 and just giving them that skills to be able to like approach like innovation from a problem solving and curiosity mindset, even from that age. And they do a lot of robotics, machine learning, and AI stuff here at the lab. But one of the things, and I went that route because of the next generation of builders in your question. Now, one of the things that made us to go even that young is because and for me, like getting into the global scene, it becomes very obvious for you that we start very late in Africa. We start very late. So when you get into the global scene, you realize that there are people who are like way younger than you that are doing like that are far ahead of you, simply because they were exposed to some of these things like way earlier. And that was why we took our mission back there. But beyond that, we also sort of like, we have an apprenticeship program that seeks to sort of like give like new people coming into tech and young people coming into tech an opportunity to sort of like build the skills that will make them employable and valuable. So yes, the simple answer to that question is that we need to start early. But beyond starting early, the flip side of that conversation is that as these kids grow, as this sort of like people who are learning become better, they need an enabling environment. They need opportunities to be able to sort of like apply what they've learned in terms of sort of like helping other builders or even building their stuffs. If we fail to and even access to finance, if they decide to build, access to funding and access to finance if they decide to go on and like build their own stuff. If we fail to do all that, we risk a situation where they decide to sort of like relocate and leave the continent, or worse, even stop building at all. Okay, but if we provide all these resources like access to funding, access to finance, opportunities, and even the enabling environment, then we stand a better chance of retaining the workforce and the talents that would build the next amazing startups and the unicorns that will come out of Africa. And we even like stand the chance of, and it's one of the things I encourage my founders to also be able to think about problems that can think about like solutions to problems that can serve our local economy, and that we can also then be able to sort of like export that can serve like customers in Europe and in the US also. Okay, but so when we do that, we stand a chance of nurturing this talent to a point where they are building this kind of solutions that would then be able to contribute directly to even like supporting our economy and helping it grow.
Thank you so much. And again, just want to highlight, thank you for all the great work that you're doing at Future Lab and of course across the general ecosystem, both corporately with founders and of course grassroots with kids. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Philip, coming to you. So of course we're in the age of AI and there's a lot of talk about AI. Mr. Kayode did well to start with that. But then with AI-powered attacks rising, how should startups rethink digital defense strategies? 2 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for that question. I think for startup, for you to fight AI, you need to understand AI and use AI to fight AI. That's very key. I think for startup, one of the key things they also need to put into consideration is when building most of those products, you have to start looking at things around data minimization, right? What are the kind of data you're allowed to be exposed out there? In terms of platform you're integrating, probably you are leveraging AI. You need to really pay key attention to that. Then you also need to look at the first things around data protection regulation within the country or context in which you are building such platform. So know what things that should be put in place. And in terms of the issue around AI, it's not something that is new. It has been with us, just that there is a new wave on what is happening around AI in terms of AI-powered attacks. So we need to also put in place systems that will help us manage some of those attacks within our infrastructure, which is very platforms that are being built. So, and if not well managed, these are one of the key concerns around future, or if they are going to be completely wiped out in the nick of time. So the attacks are there, they are increasing, they are not stopping. So AI to fight AI. Look at the data that is being exposed, data that are being used, data you are learning from. Those just are very key in ensuring that you protect.
All right, thank you so much for also keeping it short. All right, we've spoken a lot about founders should do this with investors, they should do this with AI, and of course they should do this with their products. But then, what role should governments and investors play in safeguarding AI-driven intellectual property? Thank you. 2 minutes, please.
Okay, so thanks so much. In rounding up, what role should government play? Obvious role, putting all the infrastructure in place, organizing programs, valuable programs where youths, will feel belonged, even those that are nursing ideas, we, ride on those kind of programs. We don't see those things much more now because, again, the African space is beclouded with lots of politics and all of that. But government should drive, innovative programs for youths. It can be from radio station, it can be TV station, it can be print media, it can even be social media, where people will talk about innovations, not talking about celebrity, talk about core, competencies, innovation, how to use LLMs, and so on. My friend Philip talked about using AI to fight AI. That's what it should be. Get youth to engage themselves. Create another kind of social media environment where it will be basically for talking technology. That is not being done now. Government should do that, not engaging people in this bag of rice and bag of yam arena. So they should focus more. And when we say government should do it, there are government bodies that, I mean, that's why we have MDAs. MDAs should be charged to create programs, valuable programs, that will drive all this innovation, bring people together, sensitize them, inspire them to do more, and so on and so forth. Before I close, my sister Sonny talked about churning, and I just want to round up with protecting your innovation in terms of keeping your consumers, your everyday people who use your product and services. And one of the biggest threats is churning, people leaving. And it stems from improper testing, like Sonny said. And with what Philip said, use AI to fight AI. There are lots of LLMs now that are devoted to testing. Do DAST, do SAST, do SEA resolver, scan, third-party dependencies, all of them. Don't say because you are a startup, you don't do that. It's for Microsoft and do it and let your product be much more efficient and strong so that you can strive and do much more better. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, speakers. Thank you for, of course, keeping it within time as I requested. I had asked if anyone in the room has any question. Please, in case you didn't see my message in the chat box, if anyone in the room currently has a question, before I take the questions that came in from our community members, please, can you raise your hand and then bring you on stage and you're on mute. Okay, I'll take it. There's no question. So I have a question here from one of our community members, and this is to Mr. Philip. And the question says, what sectors in Africa are most vulnerable to innovation theft or digital disruption right now? And then the other question for Kikelomo, if she's here, says, if you were advising a startup founder today, what one protection strategy would you prioritize first? So Mr. Philip and Kikelomo to round up. 1 minute, please. Mr. Philip, you first.
Okay, thank you very much. I think one of the sectors that is the most volatile and exposed is the financial sector. The reason being that everything we do ends up with money, right? Whether you are starting an agri-tech, a business tech, a biotech, whatever it is, the end result is money. And the reason, the motivation behind every attack is also money. So at the end of the day, one of the things we've seen, some of these startup churning up products, what we've seen from some major institutions is they had their major vulnerability coming from integration with some startup who are just coming up, right? And one of the things they've seen over time, that has led to some kind of them restructuring their connectivity with some of these startups before they just have an open API integration to allow seamless integration. Because of what happened over the time, they have to cut on that and start bringing up strict sanction regulation on basic security they must meet before they can integrate them. So financial sector is the most volatile sector in terms of attack. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Madam Kike, please, could you take yours?
Okay, so I'm so sorry, I wasn't listening in on that question. Please, can you repeat the question again?
Yes, so this person says, if you were advising a startup founder today.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. What's the question?
So the question says, if you were advising a startup founder today, what one protection strategy would you prioritize first? 1 minute.
Okay. So if I was advising a startup founder today, and when it comes to in the term of finances, for me, I would say make sure you get your finances right. It is actually very important because if you understand your numbers as a founder, nobody would be able to cheat you out of your equity. Nobody would be able to take total control of your business without you being aware, and also ensure that all of the necessary documentation, all of the necessary incorporation are being done. I know that these things might be expensive, but ensure that they are done even before you start reaching out to partners, reaching out to founders, so that people don't take you for granted. So before you start reaching out to partners, reaching out to investors, make sure that all of this groundwork, you have done it. You understand your numbers. When you go to anywhere, you are in a partnership conversation, they ask you certain questions. As a founder, these are things that you need to know. Don't just leave everything to your CFO or your financial analyst. I know it might not be easy because you're trying to know, you are trying to build the product, you are trying to make sales, you are trying to, but it is important that all of those operational things and also finance structures are put in place. That would be it for me.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Kikelomo. Adebayo, yes, I can see your hand up. You can ask your question. Can you unmute and ask your questions? And please mention the speaker you are directing the question to. Adebayo, please. Hello, Adebayo, can you unmute? Don't know if he's having challenge. Adebayo, if you can hear me, yes, I can see your hand up. You can unmute and ask your question. I think maybe probably having some network challenges. I can see his mic open, but not hearing any sound from their ends. All right. Just want to give an opportunity for the other speakers who were not asked questions to give their closing remark in just one sentence. So that would be you, Mr. I'll start with you, Mr. Moses, and then go on to Sonny. Mr. Moses, just one sentence closing remark.
Yeah. Basically, I would say it's important to get your structures and your documentations and like your contractual agreements correctly. What I would say is get a lawyer early that would help you sort of like structure all this before you start talking to people and even bringing in like contractors or hiring people into your team. And if you have a co-founder, or if you're looking for a co-founder or investors, especially a co-founder, take your co-founder agreement seriously. Don't partner up out of vibes or out of we get along, essentially. Your co-founder agreement is super important too.
Thank you so much. Sonny, please, your closing statement, 1 minute.
Okay, so mine will be I want co-founders and founders themselves to understand that QA needs to be a part of the process from inception. Consider it in the requirements discussions. Consider QA as important as every other step that you take in your development process. Consider QA as part of the team. QA is not the enemy, and it is there to ensure that certain things are mitigated when it comes to your product. So I think that's what I'm going to say.
All right, thank you so much, Sonny, for that pretty statement. Just want to use the opportunity to say again, thank you for everyone who joined and have been here with us in the room, and most importantly, thank you for allowing us to extend the conversation beyond the allotted time. We don't take that for granted. I mean, as you can see, it was very valuable inputs that the speakers had to close out with. And also just want to mention that the recording for this and of course past events are hosted on our YouTube channel. And so we have a whole library of important topics that we have discussed about the Nigerian ecosystem and of course the technology industry in Africa. And so please do well to enlighten yourself with those topical discussions. We've done a lot of work in bringing in experts and operators in prevailing sectors and niches of the industry to discuss and render solutions to prevent problems from fundraising, to investing, and of course to building in a very volatile market such as Nigeria and Africa. So please, if you're a founder or even a tech enthusiast, do well to build up your capacity and your knowledge with those with the repository of videos on our YouTube channel. And I just want to say that someone who I work a lot with founders and innovators in helping them raise equity funding, which is grant funding, and of course helping them access global opportunities like the UK Global Talent Visa. One thing I see is that some founders do not really believe in the innovation that they've built. I don't know if it is I don't know if it is imposter syndrome or whatever. Maybe it is out of fighting and working hard from a third world country that makes them not believe in their innovation. But you'll be surprised that someone who has raised multiple millions of dollars is still having some imposter syndrome with how their technology benchmarks against the global standard. So I just want to share an encouragement to founders here that believe in your innovation, because the truth of the best innovation is the one that solves problems. And like Mr. Kayode said, if it solves a problem for your local economy and your local ecosystem, then it is world class. Because what is world class? World class is basically something that has solved the problem and you've taken it to a global stage. So please, founders, believe in your innovation, and of course, keep building, keep operating. And Techeconomy would always be here to organize forums like this to discuss prevailing composition and of course bring topical experts to dissect topics and bring solutions to these things. So thank you once again to the faculty for organizing this. Because who were not able to join us, Chelsea and Mr. Bilenda. They were quite indisposed, but thank you all for being here and for helping us have very impactful conversation. We'll always be in contact with you so that we can keep driving the ecosystem of Africa and Nigeria forward. Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure being your host, and I'm sure the faculty will reach out to you after now. Thank you so much, and do have a great rest of the day and a great week as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.